The first time Adrian Blackwood called her a liar, it was in a glass-walled boardroom 40 floors above London, with the city spread beneath them like a kingdom he already owned. "You're mistaken," he said calmly, fingers steepled, voice smooth and cold. "Or you're lying. Either way, this meeting is over." Every head at the table turned toward her. Elara Finch stood alone, clutching a thin folder that suddenly felt heavier than it should have. She could feel her pulse in her ears, but she didn't lower her gaze. She had learned a long time ago that lowering your eyes gave men like Adrian permission to crush you. "I'm not mistaken," she said. "And I'm not lying." A faint, humorless smile touched his lips. Billionaire. Tech magnate. The man whose face appeared on magazine covers under headlines like the mind that changed the world. He leaned back in his chair as if she were a mildly interesting inconvenience. "You've come into my company," he said, "claimed to be carrying my child, and provided no evidence beyond your word. Do you know how many people try to attach themselves to my name every year?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the executives. Elara swallowed. "I didn't want to come here. You left me no choice." That earned a soft laugh from him. "I don't even know you." The words cut deeper than she expected. 3 months earlier, he had known her very well. It had been a charity gala on the Thames, one of those polished evenings where money pretended to be kindness. Elara had been there as a research assistant, not a guest, helping her supervisor present a proposal for funding maternal health clinics. Adrian Blackwood had arrived late, tie loosened, looking bored and untouchable. They hadn't planned to talk. It just happened. A conversation that felt strangely effortless. A shared moment on the balcony when the music faded and the city lights blurred. One glass of wine too many. A kiss that surprised them both. One night. No promises. No names exchanged properly. Just heat, honesty, and a reckless sense of escape. She hadn't even known who he was until the next morning, when she woke alone and saw his name splashed across the news on her phone. She hadn't tried to find him. Until she found out she was pregnant. Back in the boardroom, Adrian stood, buttoning his jacket. "Security will see you out." Elara felt something snap inside her. "I don't want your money," she said sharply. "I didn't come here to trap you. I came because you deserve to know the truth." He paused, eyes narrowing slightly. "The truth," he repeated. "Yes. I'm pregnant. And unless biology has suddenly changed, you're the father." For the briefest second, something flickered across his face. Not fear. Not shock. Calculation. Then it vanished. "Get her out," he said. 2 guards approached. Elara didn't resist as they escorted her from the room, but as the doors closed behind her, she caught one last glimpse of Adrian Blackwood standing perfectly still, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the space where she had stood. Outside, the air felt thin. She told herself she hadn't expected anything else. Weeks passed. Elara returned to her small flat, to her quiet routines, to the growing weight inside her that was both terrifying and miraculous. She didn't contact him again. She didn't try to prove anything. She focused on surviving. Until the pain started. It was sudden. Sharp. Wrong. At the hospital, the doctors moved quickly. Too quickly. Tests. Scans. Whispers she wasn't meant to hear. "This can't be right," one doctor murmured. Another frowned at the screen. "That's not possible." Elara lay there, heart racing. "What's wrong?" They exchanged looks. "We need to run more tests." Hours later, a senior consultant sat beside her bed, expression carefully neutral. "Ms. Finch, according to the scans, your pregnancy isn't developing in a typical way." "What does that mean?" she asked quietly. He hesitated. "You appear to be carrying more than one fetus." Her breath caught. "Twins." He shook his head slowly. "No." The room seemed to tilt. "Then what?" "We can't explain it yet," he said. "But based on the data, conception could not have occurred at the time you believe." "That's impossible," she whispered. "So far," he replied gently, "everything about this case is impossible." Within days, specialists were involved. Geneticists. Researchers. Confidentiality agreements she barely understood. Blood samples taken again and again. One thing became clear very quickly. Whatever was happening inside her body was not normal. And it was not a mistake. Someone leaked the story. By the end of the week, Adrian Blackwood was staring at a private medical report in his penthouse office, his face drained of color for the first time in years. Confirmed paternity. Confirmed conception date. Confirmed anomalies that defied every known explanation. His assistant spoke softly. Sir, the woman you dismissed. Ilara Finch. His hand tightened around the file. She hadn't lied. He was halfway out the door before he realized he was shaking. At the hospital, Ilara was watching rain slide down the window when she sensed someone behind her. She turned slowly. Adrian stood there, no entourage, no arrogance. Just a man who looked like his world had cracked open. I owe you an apology, he said. She studied him for a long moment. You owe me more than that. He nodded. I know. Silence stretched between them, heavy with things unsaid. They say, he continued, voice low, that what you're carrying shouldn't exist. A bitter smile touched her lips. That makes two of us. He stepped closer. I want to help. She finally looked him in the eyes. This isn't something you can buy your way out of. I'm not trying to buy anything, he said. I'm trying to understand. Another contraction of pain rippled through her, subtle but unmistakable. She pressed a hand to her stomach, breath hitching. Adrian noticed immediately. What's happening? Her voice was barely above a whisper. Something's changing. And no one knows what comes next. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. And deep within Ilara, something ancient and inexplicable seemed to stir, as if responding to a force neither science nor wealth could control, and Adrian Blackwood realized, with a cold certainty settling in his chest, that this pregnancy was about to unravel everything he thought he understood about power, truth, and the limits of the impossible. Adrian stayed at the hospital longer than he had planned. Longer than he had ever stayed anywhere that didn't involve contracts, numbers, or control. He watched doctors come and go, listened to words like unstable markers and accelerated development, and felt a growing unease he could not silence with logic. Ilara noticed his restlessness. You don't have to hover, she said quietly, eyes still on the window. I know, he replied. But I'm not leaving. She studied him, searching for the man who had dismissed her without blinking. He looked different now. Not softer, just stripped of certainty. You didn't believe me, she said. I believed what made sense to me, he answered. I've built my life on proof. And now proof is telling me I was wrong. That honesty surprised her. She shifted slightly in the bed, wincing as another wave of discomfort passed. The machines reacted immediately, a flurry of quiet beeps that drew a nurse back into the room. The readings are fluctuating again, the nurse said, adjusting the monitor. We'll alert the consultant. After she left, Adrian leaned closer, lowering his voice. They are not telling you everything. Ilara raised an eyebrow. I know. They are afraid, he continued. Not for you. For what this means. She exhaled slowly. I didn't ask for this. I just wanted a normal life. A normal child. His jaw tightened. If this is my responsibility. She cut him off. It's not about responsibility. It's about reality. And reality doesn't seem to care what either of us wants. Later that night, after visiting hours ended, Adrian made a call from the corridor. Not to his lawyers. Not to the press team already buzzing like hornets. He called the head of a private research institute he funded quietly, selectively. I want your best people, he said. Full discretion. No publications. No leaks. There was a pause on the other end. This sounds personal. It is, Adrian replied. And it's urgent. By morning, the hospital wing felt different. Security had doubled. New faces appeared. Men and women with sharp eyes and clipped speech, introduced as consultants but carrying themselves like something else entirely. Ilara noticed immediately. You brought an army. I brought protection, Adrian said. For you. For them. She frowned. For who? Before he could answer, pain surged through her body, stronger than before. She cried out, gripping the sheets as doctors rushed in. What's happening? Adrian demanded. The consultant stared at the screen, disbelief plain on his face. Growth rate has spiked again. This shouldn't be possible at this stage. Ilara gasped, sweat beading on her forehead. I can feel it, she whispered. They're moving differently. The room went silent. They. Adrian repeated. The consultant hesitated, then spoke carefully. There are 3 distinct heartbeats now. Ilara's eyes widened. You said there weren't twins. We didn't say there couldn't be more, he replied. We said it wasn't explainable. Adrian felt something cold settle in his stomach. Are you telling me she's carrying triplets?
The consultant shook his head slowly. No.
I'm telling you that what she's carrying doesn't conform to human developmental patterns.
Ilara's breathing grew shallow.
Say it plainly. The consultant met her gaze. They are not developing at the same rate. One appears weeks ahead of the others. That shouldn't happen. Adrian ran a hand through his hair. What does that mean? It means, the consultant said quietly, that we may be witnessing simultaneous but staggered gestation. As if time itself is behaving differently inside her. Ilara let out a shaky laugh that bordered on hysteria. That's insane. Yes, he agreed. It is. That night, Adrian sat alone in his penthouse, staring at the city lights that once made him feel invincible. He replayed every moment with Ilara, every choice that had brought them here. For the first time, his wealth felt meaningless. His phone buzzed. A message from one of the researchers, there's something you need to see. Genetic sequencing results just came in. When he returned to the hospital, Ilara was asleep, her face pale, lashes dark against her cheeks. For a moment, he simply watched her, struck by how fragile she looked carrying something so powerful. The researcher pulled him aside. The DNA confirms paternity, she said. But that's not the alarming part. What is? The genetic material shows markers we've never seen before. Not mutations. Additions. Additions to what? To human DNA, she said. Adrian's voice dropped to a whisper. Are you saying my child isn't human? I'm saying, she replied carefully, that they may be something more. As if on cue, Ilara stirred, her hand moving instinctively to her stomach. Her brow furrowed, lips parting as though she were listening to something no one else could hear. Adrian stepped closer. Ilara? Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then locking onto his with unsettling clarity. They know you're here, she said softly. A chill ran through him. Who knows? She swallowed, fear and wonder colliding in her expression. The one who's ahead. The first. Adrian's heart pounded. What does it want? Ilara's fingers tightened in the sheets. Not want, she whispered. Waiting. For what? Her gaze drifted back to the monitor, where the fastest heartbeat pulsed steadily, relentlessly. For the moment, she said, when the world finally notices them. Adrian didn't sleep that night. He remained in the chair beside Ilara's bed, the quiet rhythm of the monitors carving time into shallow breaths and measured beeps. Every few minutes, he glanced at the screen as if it might suddenly reveal an answer written in numbers he had somehow missed before. Ilara drifted in and out of sleep, murmuring things that made no sense, fragments of sentences, half-formed thoughts that sounded more like memories than dreams. Too loud, she whispered at one point. Adrian leaned closer. What's too loud? The future, she murmured, then fell silent again. At dawn, the consultant returned with two unfamiliar faces. They introduced themselves carefully, using titles that sounded academic but carried the weight of authority. One of them, a woman with silver-streaked hair and steady eyes, studied Ilara with open fascination. You're experiencing sensory overlap, she said gently when Ilara awoke. Heightened perception. It's not uncommon in extraordinary pregnancies. Ilara frowned. You mean impossible ones? The woman smiled faintly. Yes. Adrian crossed his arms. I want straight answers. The second consultant, a tall man with sharp features, tapped a tablet. Straight answers don't exist here. But we believe the accelerated fetus, the first, may be influencing the others. And possibly you. Ilara's hand moved to her stomach again. I feel like something is watching through me. That's not entirely inaccurate, the woman said. Neural activity suggests awareness far beyond what's medically expected. Adrian felt a spike of anger. You're talking about my child like it's a subject. The man met his gaze. If we don't understand it, others will try to control it. That word lingered in the air. Control. It echoed something Adrian knew too well. Later that day, the press gathered outside the hospital despite the secrecy agreements. Someone had leaked again. Headlines exploded online. Billionaire's mystery pregnancy, medical anomaly shocks London, human evolution or hoax. Ilara watched the footage on a muted screen, nausea curling in her stomach. They are turning this into a spectacle. Adrian switched it off.
I'll shut it down. You can't, she said quietly.
This isn't about money or reputation anymore. It's about fear.
He looked at her. Whose fear? Everyone's, she replied.
Including yours.
He didn't deny it.
That evening, as rain battered the windows, Ilara suddenly gasped, sitting upright with a sharp cry.
Monitors flared to life. What is it? Adrian asked, instantly at her side.
Her eyes were wide, pupils dilated. I saw something. Doctors rushed in, but she waved them away, trembling.
Not a vision. A place.
A place where?
Adrian pressed. She struggled to breathe. Where they came from. Or where they are going.
I don't know which.
The consultant's voice was tense.
Describe it. Ilara closed her eyes.
It's not dark. It's layered. Like time folded in on itself. And there's a sound.
Like a heartbeat stretched across centuries.
The room fell silent.
The silver-haired woman spoke softly. That aligns with the temporal displacement theory.
Adrian turned sharply.
You have a theory for this?
We have many, she replied.
None we're comfortable with.
Ilara let out a shaky laugh.
That makes 3 of us. Later, when the room finally emptied, Adrian took her hand without thinking.
She didn't pull away.
If this is too much, he said quietly,
I can move you. Somewhere private. Safe. She looked at him, eyes glistening.
Safe from who?
He didn't answer immediately.
From people who don't see you as a person.
And do you? She asked.
The question hit harder than any accusation. Yes, he said finally. I do now. She studied his face, then nodded once. Then stay.
He stayed.
Days passed, measured not in hours but in changes. Ilara's body adapted in ways the doctors couldn't predict.
Her senses sharpened.
She could hear heartbeats through walls, feel emotions like static in the air. Sometimes she knew someone was about to enter the room seconds before it happened. Adrian watched it all. A man who had once believed the world ran on algorithms now confronted with something infinitely more complex. One night, Ilara woke him with a whisper. They are trying to reach you.
His heart skipped. Who?
The first, she said. Through me. A strange pressure filled the room, like the air thickening before a storm. The monitors spiked, lights flickering briefly. Adrian stood, unease crawling up his spine. Reach me how? Ilara's voice changed, not deeper, not colder, just steadier. You built systems to predict behavior, to shape outcomes.
He swallowed.
Yes.
They noticed, she said.
They think you'll understand. Understand what?
That this world is early, she replied. And fragile. A chill spread through him.
What are you saying? Ilara's eyes flicked to her stomach, then back to him.
They are not here by accident. And neither are you.
Outside, the city hummed, unaware that something within its walls was quietly redefining what it meant to be human, while Adrian Blackwood stood on the edge of a truth so vast it threatened to erase everything he thought he knew, and somewhere deep within Ilara, the first heartbeat began to slow, not with weakness, but with deliberate, measured intent, as if preparing for something that had been planned far longer than either of them could imagine. The slowing heartbeat set off alarms across the monitors, sharp and insistent. Doctors rushed in, voices overlapping, hands moving quickly as if speed alone might restore order. Adrian stepped back, his chest tight, watching Ilara's face pale as she gripped the sheets. It's not distress, she whispered, even as the machines protested. It's focus. The consultant frowned. Heart rate variability like this suggests deliberate modulation. That's not physiologically. I know, Ilara said softly. But they are not afraid.
Adrian's voice was low. And are you? She hesitated.
I was. Not anymore. The silver-haired woman adjusted her glasses, studying the data with a mix of awe and concern. The primary fetus appears to be entering a self-regulated state. Almost like hibernation. For what purpose?
Adrian asked. She met his gaze.
Possibly to conserve energy. Or to wait. That word again.
Waiting.
The alarm slowly settled, the room exhaling as if it, too, had been holding its breath. Ilara sank back against the pillows, exhausted but strangely calm.
They are listening now, she murmured.
Adrian leaned closer.
To what? To everything, she replied. Your satellites. Your networks.
Your data streams. You built ears for the world, Adrian. They are using them.
A sharp knock interrupted them.
Security stepped in, tense. Sir, you need to see this. In the corridor, a tablet was thrust into Adrian's hands. On the screen was a live feed from one of his private servers, systems isolated from public access, protected by layers of encryption known only to a handful of people. Lines of code were moving on their own. No one's logged in, the technician said, voice tight. But the system's active. It's reorganizing itself. Adrian stared at the patterns forming, elegant and unfamiliar. It's not hacking, he said slowly. It's learning. Behind him, Ilara's voice carried softly down the corridor. They are curious. The implications hit him like a physical blow.
Shut it down. The technician swallowed.
We tried. It won't let us. Back in the room, Ilara watched Adrian pace, his controlled composure finally cracking. You're afraid of losing control, she said gently.
I've lost it already, he replied.
This goes beyond anything I can contain.
She met his eyes.
Then stop trying to contain it.
He shook his head.
You don't understand how the world works. Governments will want answers. Militaries will want leverage.
And if they come? She asked. He didn't answer.
That night, Ilara dreamed while awake. Images flowed through her mind. Not pictures, but concepts.
Stars folding into equations. Civilizations rising and dissolving like breath on glass.
She felt small and infinite all at once. When she spoke, her voice carried an echo that made the room feel larger. They've been watching us for a long time, she said.
Adrian froze.
Who has?
The ones who came before, she replied. Not gods. Not aliens.
Just witnesses. They don't intervene often. Only when a world reaches a turning point.
And we're at one, he asked. She nodded slowly.
You are. A bitter smile crossed his face.
Of course.
Leave it to us to break reality.
She almost laughed. You don't break it.
You bend it until it shows you what it was always capable of. The next morning, unmarked cars arrived at the hospital. Men and women stepped out with badges that weren't meant to be photographed. Adrian intercepted them before they reached Ilara's floor. This patient is under my protection, he said flatly. A man with steel-gray hair met his stare. This situation is bigger than you. Adrian didn't flinch.
So is what she's carrying.
And you don't get near her without my consent. The standoff was brief but intense. Eventually, they withdrew, for now. Inside, Ilara sensed the tension without being told. They are afraid of what can't be owned, she said.
And you? Adrian asked.
What do you want? The question lingered, heavy and intimate. I want choice, she said finally.
For them. For me. He nodded slowly.
Then we'll make sure you have it. Days blurred together. Ilara's condition stabilized, then shifted again. The second and third heartbeats began to synchronize, not matching the first, but aligning in response to it, like instruments tuning to a lead note.
She's a conduit, one researcher whispered.
No, the silver-haired woman corrected. She's a bridge. Adrian sat with Ilara as evening light spilled gold across the room. If this changes everything, he said quietly, do you ever wish we'd never met? She considered the question, hand resting over the quiet, waiting heart within her. Sometimes, she admitted. But then I remember, some stories don't ask permission to be written. He reached for her hand again, and this time she squeezed back. Outside, data surged through Adrian's networks, reshaping itself with subtle intelligence. Inside, 3 heartbeats continue their patient rhythm, 1 resting, 2 learning, while somewhere beyond human awareness, a future leaned closer, not with urgency, but with certainty, as if the moment it had been waiting for was no longer approaching, but quietly unfolding. The night everything changed, the city went quiet in a way Adrian had never known before.
No sirens. No traffic hum.
Even the hospital seemed to pause, as if the world itself were holding its breath.
Ilara woke just before midnight.
Not with pain, but with clarity. She sat up slowly, one hand resting over her stomach, eyes shining with a calm that unsettled everyone in the room.
Adrian noticed it instantly. "It's time," she said. Doctors rushed forward. "Time for what?" one asked. She looked at them kindly, almost apologetically. "For truth." The monitors began to glow brighter, numbers shifting beyond normal parameters. The first heartbeat, steady, deliberate, began to rise, not erratic, not strained, but powerful. The other two followed, synchronizing perfectly, not as echoes, but as equals. The silver-haired consultant whispered, "They are no longer staggered." Ilara inhaled deeply, and when she spoke, her voice carried weight, as though it didn't belong to one woman alone. "They were never meant to arrive separately. That was to help you adjust." Adrian felt his throat tighten. Adjust to what? She turned to him, and in her gaze he saw not fear, not mystery, but purpose. To the end of pretending you alone. The lights flickered, then steadied. Outside, satellites shifted imperceptibly in their orbits. Across the globe, systems recalibrated, clocks stuttered for a fraction of a second before resuming, changed, though no one yet knew how. Ilara cried out, not in agony, but release. What followed wasn't birth as humanity understood it. The air in the room grew warm, charged, humming with energy that raised goosebumps on every arm. The monitors went blank, not dead, but irrelevant. The doctors stepped back, stunned, as a soft, radiant glow surrounded Ilara, cocooning her and the life within. Adrian moved forward instinctively. "Ilara!" "I'm here," she said, breathing hard. "Stay with me." He took her hand, and the moment he did, something flooded him, knowledge, vast and precise. He saw humanity as patterns and potential, brilliance tangled with fear. He saw power abused, hope delayed, progress throttled by greed and control. And he saw why they had chosen her. And him. The glow intensified, then gently receded. 3 cries filled the room, not loud, not weak, but clear and resonant, like notes struck perfectly in tune. Silence followed. Where panic should have been, there was awe. 3 children lay against Ilara's chest, impossibly calm, their eyes open and aware in a way that made seasoned doctors forget how to breathe. They didn't glow now. They looked human. Almost. The firstborn looked at Adrian. Not like a newborn looks, but like an equal meeting another across time. And Adrian understood. Not words. Meaning. They were not conquerors. They were not saviors. They were anchors. Humanity had reached a point where its tools could reshape reality faster than its wisdom could guide it. These children were balance, not rulers, but reminders. Living limits and living possibilities. Born human, yet carrying within them the memory of countless worlds that had failed, and a few that had endured. Ilara laughed softly through tears. "They are beautiful," she whispered. Adrian knelt beside her, overcome. "I called you a liar," he said hoarsely. She looked at him, tired but radiant. "You called me impossible," she replied. "You weren't wrong." Within hours, the unmarked cars returned, but this time, they stopped at the gates. Every system they tried to use stalled. Every order dissolved into indecision. Something subtle had shifted, not by force, but by understanding. The children didn't resist control. They made it irrelevant. News spread slowly at first, then all at once, not through leaks, but through undeniable change. Conflicts de-escalated without explanation. Markets steadied. People reported a strange sense of being seen. Adrian resigned from his companies within a week. Not because he had lost power, but because he finally understood it. He redirected everything, resources, technology, influence, toward transparency, education, care. Not guided by the children, but inspired by what they represented. Ilara left the hospital quietly. No interviews. No cameras. They moved to a place with open sky and silence, where the children could grow not as miracles, but as people. They aged normally. They laughed. They cried. They learned. But sometimes, when the wind shifted, or the stars seemed closer than usual, people felt it. A steadiness. A reminder. Years later, Adrian would stand at the edge of that quiet land, watching 3 figures run ahead of him, their laughter carrying like music. Ilara would join him, slipping her hand into his. "Do you think the world knows?" she'd ask softly. He'd smile, eyes on the horizon. "It doesn't need to." Because the truth was never meant to be announced. It was meant to be lived.
And somewhere deep within humanity's shared future, a long, dangerous chapter quietly closed, not with destruction or dominion, but with understanding, balance, and the gentle certainty that the impossible had come not to end the world,
but to finally give it a chance to become something better.